1836. The United States of America is on a westward expansion craze. Having been only conceived just 60 years ago, its people have a never-ceasing hunger for land. But just not too far from their moving borders, another country sits. Mexico is now straight in the path of many settlers looking to live there. Eventually, this leads to violence. Moving west is now the only thing in the minds of many Americans, and in the land of Tejas, the settlers there now seek a new, independent country. With 27 states and many more territories, America is on a roll. Having an eye to the Pacific, it fills the minds of the people who drive for westward movement. However, there is another country standing in their way. Mexico had just become independent in 1810. Now, American settlers look toward there, and so they are allowed to rent land there, more specifically in the land of Tejas. In doing this, Mexico hoped to benefit from it, but as more settlers came in, their true colors became more and more apparent. Then, many slaves were being brought into Tejas, something that Mexicans were against. Then, ideas of independence within the rented land began to arise. Mexico had realized what was happening, and so General Santa Anna brought troops to Tejas as a show of force, and eventually this led to a fight. On February 23, 1836, the Battle of the Alamo started, and the Mexicans made a siege, resulting in the deaths of many American settlers. But this only fueled invasion into the Mexican land, and so America fought back, and they had gotten some land out of it. The land was now declared as a new, independent country, the Republic of Texas. The newly formed country of Texas immediately came with issues. For one, its borders on the map were argued between Mexico and the American settlers. This created sort of a land dispute, as each side claimed it was theirs. Then, in 1845, the Republic of Texas officially became a state of the U.S., bringing a conflict between them and Mexico. However, there were those that were caught in the midst of the chaos over this piece of land. Many natives during this time were displaced from their own homes. Mass extermination began as the American people had a hatred against them as they poured into the new state. It was clear that something big was going to happen between the United States and Mexico, and there was someone who was going to trigger it. It's the 4th of March, 1845, and James K. Polk had just been sworn into office to serve a presidential term. In doing so, he had a list of goals he wanted to achieve. He had a desire for westward expansion and strongly believed in manifest destiny. Firstly, he wanted to have the Oregon Territory, which he would do by making a deal with the British. But he also wanted California, land that was all the way to the west along the Pacific Ocean. To get there, he had to go through the rest of this Mexico still had. At first, he tried to purchase the land, but Mexico refused. Then, he sent American troops into the disputed land, well knowing that they would die, and Mexican troops eventually did fire upon them. Polk wanted this to happen, just so he could go to Congress and blame Mexico in order to wage a war against them. And that is exactly what happened. Polk had claimed in a statement that Mexico invaded our territory and shed American blood upon American soil. Since the incident had taken place in disputed territory, Mexico believed the troops were in their land, while Polk believed it was American land. Either way, war was declared in Mexico on May 13, 1846. Immediately, however, this came with criticism, especially from Abraham Lincoln, who said that Polk only wanted to do this out of pleasure. The war ended up only lasting 2 years, when in 1848, U.S. General Winfield Scott laid siege in Mexico City. Then, on the 2nd of February, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, ending the war and establishing the borders of the Rio Grande River. The previously disputed land was handed over to the U.S. to become part of the state of Texas that we know today. Mexico also gave up all of the land west of Texas to the Pacific, which included California. The United States then proceeded to pay $15 million to Mexico, and with Oregon added as a territory, westward expansion from ocean to ocean had been fully achieved.